Our first question, la première question, Marie Vastel, Le Devoir. Your line is open. À vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour, M. Singh. Bonjour, j'aimerais vous entendre sur les résultats des élections partielles d'hier. Le NPD a perdu des plumes, a perdu des appuis dans York Centre et dans Toronto Centre. Dans Toronto Centre, il a été dépassé et de beaucoup par le Parti vert, par Mme Annamie Paul. Comment est-ce que vous interprétez les résultats? Est-ce que ça vous inquiète pour le plus long terme?
Donc, ce qu'on peut voir avec les résultats, c'est le fait que la proportion de vote pour les libéraux est tellement réduite, comme si on fait en comparaison avec le passé. Ça montre que l'appui des libéraux, ça c'est réduit et c'est quelque chose d'intéressant. Pour nous, c'est toujours le cas qu'on va continuer de se battre pour les gens. Dans une pandémie, maintenant, dans une deuxième vague de cette pandémie, avec les nombres qui augmentent en Ontario, au Québec, on a des graves inquiétudes pour les gens et on va continuer de travailler pour eux.
Je comprends que les libéraux ont perdu des appuis, mais vous aussi, donc je répète ma question. Dans votre cas, vous avez perdu des appuis dans les deux circonscriptions. Comment est-ce que vous interprétez ça? Il y en a qui disent que c'est peut-être parce qu'à force d'appuyer le gouvernement libéral, les électeurs ne voient pas nécessairement l'importance de voter pour le NPD. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
Non, je n'accepte pas du tout ce qu'on a fait et ce qu'on voit, c'est le fait que si quelqu'un a besoin d'aide, il pouvait compter sur nous, les néo-démocrates. On a aidé les gens à plusieurs reprises et on va faire exactement ça avec le congé des maladies payées, avec l'aide aux gens qui ont besoin de la PCU ou maintenant la nouvelle approche. C'est nous qui étions là pour les gens. On va continuer d'aider les gens. Et je crois que les gens savent que c'est nous qui sont là pour eux. Sure. I would say no, I don't accept that frame at all. What we've seen throughout the pandemic is that people can count on us. We've been fighting for them, whether it's the paid sick leave that we recently obtained or bringing in CERB in the first place. We've been fighting for Canadians, and I'm confident they can look to us and count on us to continue to fight for them. And they'll see in us people that will be there for them when they're down and out or when times are tough. New Democrats are there for people.
And we'll now take questions from the room. Nous allons passer aux questions dans la salle avant de retourner pour une dernière question au téléphone. Rachel?
Perfect. Hi, Mr. Singh. Rachel Haynes here from CTV National News. Yesterday, Pablo Rodriguez said that the Conservatives are playing games right now with the motion and the Health Committee study. But do you think that's a fair charge? Because, I mean, even last week, the Liberals were the ones who were threatening an election in the middle of a pandemic.
Right. I think that what the Liberals are doing are making it very clear they're afraid of being accountable. And to me, that's deeply concerning. That's a pretty normal thing that the opposition would want to know, are we getting the best value for money? Obtaining information to be able to ensure that the best decisions are being made. Is the Liberal government spending money that's going to help people, or is it going to help those closely associated with the Liberal government? Those are fair questions. And recently we've heard concerns raised by pharmaceutical companies that requesting these documents is somehow problematic. I want to push back on that point because the Liberals have shown in the past that they've caved to the lobbying of the pharmaceutical companies. One example is a simple change to make medication more affordable, just to broaden the countries that we compare to when we set our prices, was something the Liberals promised to do. They were lobbied and they backed away from that promise. And they still have yet to make the changes that would give us a better list of countries to compare to set our prices. That's one concrete example of them caving to the pharmaceutical lobby. So if they need help pushing back, we as New Democrats are more than ready to fight back against the pharmaceutical lobby that is in some way suggesting that we can't hold the government to account by knowing where money is being spent and if it's being spent appropriately.
And I would just like to follow up on the by-election results from yesterday. Clearly, it was not probably what you expected to see. Now, does this put you in the place where you're feeling like you're going to have to continue to support the Liberals because you're not going to want to see an election anytime soon?
Not at all. I mean, we've said from the beginning that New Democrats have shown in the past that we can fight elections with less resources than the other parties. We've done it successfully. We've done it and been able to show Canadians an alternative. But that is not the reason why we're not going to an election. We look at the reality that we're up against in a second wave with numbers increasing rapidly and in a really scary way in Ontario and Quebec and some of the largest cities in the country. We are worried about that. Canadians are worried about that. And instead of plunging the country into an election, the right thing to do now is to continue to put in place supports and help to people, make sure we've got long-term care supports for our seniors, make sure they're safe in long-term care centers, make sure there's childcare available, make sure that we've got a healthcare system that's there for people when they're in need. These are some of the priorities that we need to work on instead of being in an election for 40 days, a month and a half where people can't get help. That's what we're focused on. But if it comes to a point where we can't continue to fight for people and bring in the help they need, we are ready to go to an election. That's just not our goal. We're not looking for a reason to go to an election. We're looking for a way to make this government work for people.
Nous allons maintenant prendre des questions au téléphone. We'll now take a question on the phone. Operator, do we have another question?
We have no questions registered at this time.
Thank you. I'll allow one. We have a little bit more time, so go for it.
I appreciate that. I'll just like to ask you about the First Nations Neskantaga that is under the boil water advisory right now. And the Trudeau government has said that was one of their main promises, was to eliminate all boil water advisories. Now they're blaming it on COVID. What more would you like to see on this front?
The nation of Neskantaga, what's going on there, really we have to take a moment and think about what it is. 25 years they've had no clean drinking water. And 5 years ago, less than 5 years ago, the Prime Minister, on the day that this nation demanded help, said, we need help, whoever is the next Prime Minister, make this a priority. On that same day they made that plea, the Prime Minister announced on that same day that he would make sure that every Indigenous community had access to clean drinking water. So clearly made a promise to these people, made a promise to this nation. Well, 5 years after that promise to make sure there would be clean drinking water, not only do they not have clean drinking water, it's no longer just a boil water advisory. They just simply have no access to water, period. Their entire system is broken. And they can't just boil the water now. They're no longer able to use the water because of the hydrocarbons that are present. The water is too dangerous to even wash your hands with, to do anything with, let alone drink. So this is an abject failure of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, a complete breaking of that promise. And I cannot accept, nor should anyone accept, in the year 2020, with the technology that we have, with the wealth that we have as a nation, that we cannot ensure that an Indigenous community can have clean drinking water, a system that works, where local community members are trained to keep it running. I cannot accept that this is not possible, this is not achievable. Except for the only explanation I have is that there was not a will to get it done.
I do have just one last one about whether or not Brenda Lucki, if Brenda Lucki should step down.
We've supported the National Chief, Perry Bellegarde's call that at this point in time, Justin Trudeau has to answer the question, does he have any confidence in a commissioner that one couldn't recognize it or didn't acknowledge there was systemic racism, then acknowledged it but couldn't define it, and then after seeing really deplorable negligence on the part of the RCMP in Nova Scotia, defended those actions. Now Justin Trudeau has to explain, does he still stand beside her? At this point, the National Chief, Perry Bellegarde, a number of others have said, clearly this is not the person that could do the job. But again, I asked the Prime Minister, it's his responsibility. Why hasn't he taken action to ensure that there's someone leading the RCMP that can actually address these problems?
Thank you very much.